The theme of this press conference post-practice is turn the page, even though the media kept asking over and over and over about Saturday. He's doing his best to move on. Will they let him? Anyway, this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, extra edition, post-practice. Lane Kiffin and AJ Finley and Nick Broeker met with the media today in their weekly news conference on Mondays that broadcast all that stuff. Kiffin talked a little bit about a recap of the weekend whenever he got in there, but really wanted to turn attention over to Arkansas, who he said can be pretty good at times, and they actually played pretty well against LSU, even with a backup quarterback this past weekend. He's literally trying to bring focus onto this game, but everybody was talking about officiating issues and how do you bounce back from an emotional loss. It's a really weird dynamic. AJ Finley was quick to point out that he had moved on about 24 hours ago from the Ole Miss Alabama game and was completely looking forward to the Hogs. And Nick Broeker talking about that leadership group, you can see the theme that is developing in this is the questions that were being asked was 100% really about the Alabama game. Nick Broeker says a group is actually leading this team, and you don't have guys that were being singled out to lead this team, which is good because that is basically the definition of a culture of a team taking over and them doing what they're supposed to do. But there is no Matt Corral in this team. There is no Sam Williams. Those guys are gone, and they're kind of handling their own business. And I just don't know. It was a weird press conference because everything was so focused on the Alabama game. This week should honestly be focused on the Arkansas game because it's set up. We're going to do our show tomorrow. The whole major key is going to be, will KJ play? Will he won't play? And that is kind of the focus of this week. Not a last-second, last-minute loss to Alabama. That game's in the past. Like I said, I move on quickly, probably more quickly than anybody else. That is because I've sat in that building. I've done that. I've trained myself to move on. And also in the media, everything's going on. So I'm able to detach from a result very quickly. It doesn't really matter what it is. I'd never really feel bad about a remote result. Also, I never really feel great and elated about a result as well. Anyway, before we move on, I do want to let you know that this special edition show is brought to you by Upside. You know, inflation has us all thinking about ways to cut back, whether you're driving less, you're going out to eat less, things like that. Whether it's driving less or going out less, buying less from the grocery store, we can all agree there's nothing fun about less. That's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. With Upside, I don't have to cut back because I get cash back on every purchase. See what they did there? To get started, download the free Upside app, use promo code LOCKED, and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Next, claim an offer from wherever you're buying on Upside. Check in at the business, pay as usual with a credit or debit card. Boom, get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards and loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times or more cash back with Upside. Upside earners are earning more than $1 million every week. That's probably why they have a 4.8 rating on the App Store. So download the free Upside app. Use promo code LOCK to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code LOCKED. Also, this episode is brought to you by Nissan. It's a part of our Thrilling Moment series, and this week's thrilling moment of college football is probably Quinshon Judkins, if we're being honest, but they're behind all the thrilling designs behind the new lineup of Nissan intended to empower drivers and vehicles as capable as the drivers themselves. When I think of unbelievable abilities on the field this week's thrilling moment, it has to be the last couple minutes with Quinshon Judkins. You saw a young true freshman start to take over and running the ball, getting inside the Bama 20-yard line. Ole Miss had a pass into the end zone on 4th down to win that game because of the effort of Quinshon Judkins. And honestly, if we're going to be real about it, if Zach Evans was able to play in the second half of that game, all of a sudden Quinshon's probably a little bit fresher, and they're keeping up with the run game down inside the red zone, which honestly would have probably been more effective and worked. Them going away from it cost them. Anyway, this segment has been inspired by the thrilling new designs featured across Nissan's new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills you in the all-new Frontier, Armada, or Pathfinder today. It's all available at nissanusa.com. Anyway, let's get into the press conference. Lane Kiffin, AJ Finley, Nick Broeker talking honestly about recovering from the Alabama game and not too much about the Arkansas game at all. We need to get our focus to the Arkansas game. Just my opinion. We need to do that. Anyway, here they are.
All right, so, this is the last time we have to talk about it, which is always one of the issues, with you play the game and when you lose, you got to deal with that Saturday and Saturday night. Then you got to watch it as a staff Sunday, so you relive it. And then you got to watch with your players Monday morning, relive it. And, you want to move on, and then you got to come here. So, to recap it, as you guys know, in here you saw I was very frustrated after the game. And I think that just, explaining to the players today, I think that's a thing about experience. And as you get older, just understanding, just like you do with your own children, like they don't usually understand what they're going through and what that moment is and how rare that moment may be. So I was just frustrated for our players to be that close, to have the ball in your hands against Alabama, controlling the outcome. If you take some time off the clock and score, you beat Alabama, and that's a rare thing. I told him today, I was in that situation 13 years ago, ball in our hands at Tennessee, going down to kick a field goal to beat Alabama. So it doesn't happen very often, so that's why there was a lot of frustration in it, and probably with what they say with the SEC scheduling change coming up, we're not going to play them. Ole Miss and Alabama's not going to play every year, so even less chance for those things to happen. So that's frustrating as you watch the film and see all the missed opportunities. Commend our team, like I said after the game. Commend Bryce especially. He put his Superman cape on and made some unbelievable plays in that game, and that's why he's the Heisman Trophy winner. So, and we had a chance to finish the game and didn't do it. So, it is what it is. We got to move on. Arkansas, a very talented team that played really, in a lot of ways, outplayed LSU Saturday, and really had a bunch of chances with backup quarterbacks to beat LSU. So that tells you a lot about how good they play at times and how good they just played Saturday, and a difficult place to play at night and weather. So we got to get back on track, have a really good week, and prepare really well.
I feel like it's been a collective group of it's been a lot of people, honestly, just knowing we got to move on and not really let this game affect us in the next few weeks, just move on and get ready for the next two games.
Yeah, I think it's been more of a group effort this year, honestly, more so than the past years. And we have a lot of veteran guys that have played. And so I think from that standpoint, we kind of have it kind of figured out. And we kind of have an idea of, this is our leadership group. These are kind of the older guys to look up to. So I would definitely say it's more of a group effort this year.
I don't know that. I mean, like I told him today, you had a similar challenge before with losing your first game of the year, at LSU, and came back and regrouped and went on the road and won the next week at A&M. So, you want players to do that stuff, but again, as head coach, that's part of your job to do that and not rely on the players to do that and walk these guys through it. So, this will be challenging.
Obviously it's upsetting watching that, but we played decent on defense, but there was just a few plays that we probably should have made and probably would have changed the outcome of the game.
I thought we actually did a pretty good job towards the end of the game. Obviously, we allowed a little bit more pressure than previously. But I thought we did a really good job coming out early and kind of asserting ourselves into the game and kind of playing behind our pads, getting our feet moving, and really trying to finish blocks and kind of setting a tone.
Yeah, you probably missed me by a day. I probably would have said a lot of different things, but like I said, I've put the game behind us. We can't go back and win the game by calling a different play, changing something. So it is what it is. Obviously the Jackson part and after the whistle stuff, is disappointing. Talked to his mom, just kind of apologize even though it's out of our control. So, like she mentioned, it's just a shame her son gets treated different based off what SEC program that he's at on game day and protected different. So, is what it is, and we move on.
I suspect you won't answer
And
this.
let's make sure that quote was right. Like she said, not me. I really don't want to get fined today.
I've kind of moved on already. So after I watched the film, I probably moved on yesterday, honestly. So just watch the game, get all of that stuff out of the way, and move on.
A little bit. I think more than anything, they kind of ran more twist games in the second half than previously in the first half. That's something we definitely need to correct and kind of get in order. But I think that was kind of the main thing, is kind of some of the pressures they brought were a lot different in the second half than the first half. They adjusted to what we were doing.
That's been talked about for a long time, being around this conference. I know fans do whatever, but as coaches. So I'll just say I've been on both sides of it, and I'll leave it at that.